Alright, so this is my Game Boy Advance cabinet. Now, it has a lot more in it than just Game Boy Advance. It has, all the different portable Nintendo consoles throughout the generations, not including Game & Watches, which are in my NES cabinet in my other section of the game room. But this one covers pretty much everything from the Game Boy and on, all the way up to the, DS and 3DS inclusive. And I really love this cabinet. I think it's one of my favorite cabinets that I've set up down here because it really kind of showcases the consoles, or Nintendo's portable consoles rather, throughout the generations, where you had the kind of, the original Game Boy, and then Game Boy Advance, and then DS. So let's just take a quick look at the different shelves that we have going on here. On the very top, it's kind of high up, so it wasn't really good for laying anything down on. Like, you wouldn't really be able to see it if you're just standing in front of it. It's not so hard now because I'm kind of holding my camera above my head. But up here, basically, I've just stored some of the various Game Boy carrying cases that I have accumulated over the years. The next row down, though, is where we finally start with, like, the original Game Boy and Game Boy Advance. I've always really loved just kind of having all of these different things lined up beside each other. It's really cool. As just from, like, a quick glance, it really lets you see just how many different colors of portable, the Game Boys, or, Nintendo portable consoles in general, Nintendo released over the years. Let me move the glass so you can get a look at the other side here. And of course, having the box things along the back, with the loose one in front. I've always thought that looked really cool. And some more accessories and things down at the end. Next row down, we have the Game Boy Advance. So yeah, we kind of just covered original Game Boy and Game Boy Pocket. Game Boy Color doesn't really have a spot. There's some Game Boy Color stuff at the very bottom, which we'll see soon. But I kind of skip over that and then go right to Game Boy Advance with the e-reader bundle, and again, boxes with loose forms in front. Not necessarily the one that corresponds to what's in the box. We can even see something kind of tucked up in there, like my red Game Boy Advance. We'll talk about Game Boy Advance separately one day. There's just too much stuff here to talk about in one kind of go. And, silver Game Boy Advance in the box. Then we move on to Game Boy Advance SP, Game Boy Micro, both the North American and Japanese versions of the box, and the loose one, and another Game Boy Advance e-reader bundle. Moving back to the left and down a row, we reached Nintendo DS with my Professor Layton kind of Last Spectre promotional stand-up thing with puzzles that you could take and solve. And on this row, so we have like Nintendo DS, Nintendo DSi XL. Moving to the right, we have like the 3DS and my 3DS XL. Came with Mario Party Island Tour, and again, if you look up, you can see a pink DSi up there. There's always things. You need to look at everything from like a whole bunch of different angles in order to get the full experience. Now, if we look at the very bottom shelf here, you'll see where we have a little bit of Game Boy Color stuff. We have a couple laying here. We have a Game Boy Pocket kind of, sneaking in on that. At first glance, it might look like it's 3 Game Boy Colors, because there's actually a yellow Game Boy Color as well. But that one's actually a Game Boy Pocket. And yeah, just a bunch of different odds and ends in here. So like Game Genie, a couple boxed Game Boy Colors, even in behind sometimes there's different things. So it's hard to get the whole experience with just one glance. You really have to look at things from a whole bunch of different angles. I really love the e-reader. We've talked about it before. So let's have a little bit of an e-reader display here. Some Japanese cards, exclusive. Like we never got the Battle Network 4 cards, but maybe that was for the better. People will know that Battle Network 4 is not the greatest thing that was ever created. And if we look down, things like link cables, Game Boy printer paper, Game Sharks, some Japanese games, including Pokemon Green. There we have the Pokemon Pikachu and Pichu Game Boy Color, and then just some random assorted box things. These are definitely not my best, rather, Game Boy Advance games. I'll actually do a quick move over to here, where you can get a quick look at a bit of my Game Boy and Game Boy Advance collection, which I don't think I've shown. This is where some of my better ones are. I like to line them all up here. So you have like the Pokemons, and my favorite series, of course, my favorite Game Boy Advance series, of course, the Battle Network. I'm still missing 6. I really need to get number 6 someday. And then we've got things like the Sonic Advance series, and the complete Super Mario Advance series. Everything was Advance on the Game Boy Advance, just like everything was Super on the Super Nintendo. Another thing I did, I wanted to get all of the Wario Land games because I love them, so I finally completed those 4, but still got to get those Battle Network games. But yeah, so that is a quick look at my Game Boy stuff that is hidden around the basement. Well, not necessarily hidden, but I guess you wouldn't normally see this on video because it's not even in the room that I normally do my videos in. So yeah, with that, that's my quick look. Well, not necessarily the quick look. Everything I do seems to go on for like years and years, but that's a look at my Game Boy stuff. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time for something different. So thanks, and see ya.